Hello, welcome to another episode of the Horror Vision Presents Murderboard, a true detective night country discussion. My name is Sean,
And I'm Missy.
and this is going to be a full spoiler discussion about Night Country episode 5. So this is the penultimate episode. We got one left. How did you feel about this episode, Missy?
I I really liked it. I thought it was a really good, solid episode, and then you get that what the fuck moment, like about 5 minutes before the end.
Remember, audience, this is full spoiler. So if you have not watched this shit, do not listen to us because this is a fucking big spoiler. Sorry. I just wanted to remind people because, like, holy fuck, we're talking about this.
Right, and it's a big episode, but it is like 3 o'clock in the morning yesterday when it dropped because I fired it up right after Joe Bob ended with his Valentine's special, and like 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'm just literally jaw open. Holy fuck, did that just happen? Yes, it did. I was not expecting the two deaths that happened right at the end, especially the fact that, you know, Hank will no longer be a problem.
Yes. And, you had said repeatedly, I feel like on our episodes of this show, Murder Board, something's up with him. He's involved in something.
Mm-hmm.
And I agreed, but I didn't see I don't feel like I saw that coming the way you did. And so okay, so for the audience, Missy texts me today we're talking about, okay, so I'm gonna watch it today. You watch it last night, and Missy says I'm gonna rewatch it, and then we'll record. So we're recording this Saturday night. And you said something big happens near the end, right? And so that could be so in my head, I'm like, that could be any number of fucking things, right? I never thought it would be what happened. But
No, me neither.
so as I'm watching it, I'm waiting, right? And so there is a point in this episode where what is it? It's Christopher Eccleston's character, who's basically
Connolly.
Connolly, Jodie Foster's boss, Danvers' boss, basically calls her after the riot at the mine. He calls her to the office of the was it Silver Skies Mining, right? To meet
Yep.
with that McKintrick, I think her name is, the woman
Kate, McKit- Kate McKittrick.
there you go, Kate McKittrick, who runs the mine, but also Danvers slept with her husband, yada yada yada. Right after that, you see Kate meet with Hank and basically
Yeah.
say, I mean, and she does not say, I need you to kill Danvers or I need you to kill Otis Heiss, but also she totally says that by at one point saying, I didn't tell you to do that. Like she literally says that, meaning I told you to do
Mm-hmm.
that, right? And I forget what they say, but there's like an illusion. I think she says they can't find where Annie's body, or where Annie was killed, or something like that. So I'm thinking that's what you were talking about, like, because that's huge. I was like, holy fuck.
Yeah, nope.
No, not at
That was
all.
not what I was talking about. That's about what I expected. Like, that didn't surprise me at all. The fact that it surprised you kind of surprises me.
This, well, it's not that it surprised me, but it was, well, it surprised me, but also just to get such like dot the I, like information, like there is no ambiguousness about this, right? Like
No, she's a
they're not.
cold-hearted bitch.
Well, and he's working for them, which we guess, but
Mm-hmm.
also like they had something to do with Annie's death. So, like, how big is this, right? And then obviously Connolly's involved with them to some degree because of the scene before that.
But that's because of his, like, his politics and
Yes,
stuff too. The election is coming up. He tells us that the first time we meet him,
yes,
and even McKittrick, the mine lady, said something to that effect too. I get the feeling he's got one foot in and one foot out. He's not.
yeah,
I don't think he's completely crooked, but maybe she has something on him. Like he's trying to work both sides.
Well, he's involved insofar as I feel like he's towing their line regardless of what it is, which is not good for anybody who's trying to see justice served. Ultimately, yeah, I mean, McKittrick does say that, like she says something to because when she goes to Hank, then he says something like, "Go to Conley," and she's like, he's a political animal. I forget how she says it, but she basically is like, he's not going to do anything because he's just exactly what you just said.
The election is coming up.
Yeah, he's only in it so far as it helps him, so he's not going to get his hands that dirty. But Hank, then, like, this is kind of Hank's episode. I loved, and I know you did too immediately, the scene where Pete gets kicked out by his wife and he goes to his dad's place, to Hank's, and he's standing outside and hears Hank singing and playing the guitar. So, first of all, that was fucking awesome. And I feel like I could do a whole album of Hank sings. Like I really, really, really liked that a lot. Yeah, there was an element of it that was, it was kind of his episode in that we got a lot more substance, like a lot more finality with it, like literally, because then his son ends up blowing his fucking brains out
in a heartbeat. As soon as he threatened Danvers, he chose immediately.
Do you think, kind of feel like I'm 50-50 on this right now, and I think the answer is, I think you're going to say what I think the answer is, but the way he says family, and that's a theme of the episode, right? He says that to Pete a bunch of times,
right?
You know, fucking family, like where Pete gets thrown out, and he's, you know, they're kind of talking about like, you know, that, and then he relays the story about Pete getting when he was 9, falling under the ice, and him, Hank, having to hack his way into it with a ice axe to get his son out, and then keep him awake, right, to before, you know, driving him to the emergency room. That was a great scene. And the scene that pretty much lets everybody know in a way that, like, okay, this dude's dead. Like by the end of this episode, he's not going to be around anymore. You can't always see the forest for the trees, but in hindsight, like that's totally the speech somebody gives in a show when they're going to die. So then he shoots Otis, and Pete comes in, and then there's a standoff, right? Basically, you have a situation where Pete comes in, sees his father holding the smoking gun, and this guy laying on the ground, shot twice, once in the head. And then also Danvers is kind of backed into a corner. And so it's very apparent, my dad shot this guy to death, and now he's threatening, you know, the chief, my boss. And Hank plays it very cool at first, the way he addresses him. Like he doesn't think he's got he's my son. He's taking my side, right?
Right. Yeah, he just starts telling him, you know, take the body, put it in we're going to get him in my car, and we're going to do this and that and whatever.
But do you think when he then says family, he says something like family overall,
blood is blood.
Blood is blood.
And he said it before.
He slowly starts to raise his gun towards Danvers for no discernible reason other than, I guess, like he was basically saying, I have to shoot her now because she saw me shoot this guy. I don't know. But do you think he really was going to shoot her in that moment? Or do you think that that was just some weird...
No, I think he was going to shoot her.
Really?
Like, it didn't occur to me that he was bluffing. Like, she saw him murder somebody in cold blood. Like, she doesn't let anything go. You think she's going to let that go?
Yeah, that's a good
She's
point.
not going to cover for him. I mean, unless he really turned around, because before anything happens, she does tell him, you know, you could just leave before anything happens. You could just leave and everything can still be fine.
Well, and she's also working under the assumption that they have whatever they have on you, we can fix, you know.
Right. And that's the next thing I was going to say. That's what she tells him. We can, whatever it is, we can fix it.
But then he says, "You made my son hate me," or something to that
You
effect.
turned my son against me. We can't fix that.
So then, why do you think he thinks in that moment that Peter's gonna take his side?
He's tried to strong arm Peter before, and I mean, he hit him in the face with a 2x4 at one point.
Yep.
And this isn't the first time he's done that whole blood is blood thing regarding choose me or
Or
Danvers.
Danvers. Oh, it was when he hit him in the face with the 2x4,
Yeah,
I believe.
because he stole the file. She asked him to, and Hank had it at his house. Peter stole the Annie K file. Whenever Hank has tried to make Peter choose, he's always picked her.
So then why in that moment? So this is the thing. I think you're ultimately I think you're right. That's where in my mind I also I feel like Hank's the kind of guy that's like he's testing his son's metal because he's
Mm-hmm.
always testing his son's metal. And he's
Right.
also trying to let him know like this is the way you fucking do shit. But I almost feel like there's a suicidal undercurrent to Hank in this episode. Like
Maybe.
when he stops playing the guitar and singing just because of the words of the song, which were very like nihilistic. Like
Mm-hmm.
I forget what they are. It was wonderful. It was a fucking amazing song.
Mm-hmm.
It reminded me a lot of Johnny Cash.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like sad country music what he was
Yeah.
singing.
And I don't know if it might even be like a cover. I don't know. I'm not
I don't know.
entirely sure. I just watched it earlier tonight. I haven't gotten a second viewing and I haven't Googled it at all. So, um, and I thought of doing the Shazam on the song as it was playing, but I was like, my phone
Just
wasn't near me, and I was like,
okay.
I'm not going to interrupt the flow of the episode to do that. I'll do it on a second viewing or whatever. So, but there was something so nihilistic about that when he stops playing guitar, I almost thought he was going to like blow his fucking brains out. And then the
Mm-hmm.
phone rings, and I'm thinking, oh, is this going to be the mail order bride? And it wasn't.
Right. Yeah, I thought that too. The one who was
And
scamming him for money.
and he's even like his interaction with McKittrick. He's the kind of guy that like he's in it and he's not entirely happy at where he is, but it's like you can't stop the boat. Like this is where I am.
Mm-hmm.
So I
But
almost wonder if this was his way of stopping the boat.
maybe. I mean, I think he was ultimately like trying to test Peter, but well, Peter has always, when that's been put before him, he's always sided with her. And I don't think Hank thought his son would like. Yeah, he backs Danvers up, but I don't think he ever thought he'd shoot him.
God, man, it was just so. And then for a minute, I thought Hank was going to shoot him. I thought for sure
I did
the way
too.
he was talking to him, he was just going to like, oh, I'm talking to you, and then he just shoot him. I had said, I think last episode, whatever episode where he goes with Navarro to who's the guy they go see that leaves the stone.
Oh, Pegak, Pegak,
Yes. When
Pegak.
when they had to go back there and it was Navarro and Peter, I was like, I said to Kirsten, I'm like, oh, I think Peter's not making it out of this episode. And I'm happy I was wrong. I really fucking like him.
Me too.
Like this episode sealed the deal. I really fucking like him a lot.
Yeah, me too. He had a couple really good moments too. The that whole interaction with him and Leah at the jail
Yeah.
was very cool. Um, because I don't know how if Leah is like related to his wife or if they're just very good friends, but
Yeah, I'm not
he
sure.
always stays at their house. Um, but either way, that whole interaction where she's telling him, that his wife was crying and why she that she misses the guy he used to be, and don't let Danvers kill that person.
Yep.
She's not good with people she cares about. That was a really cool scene and a really good insight. And going back to the scene where he ends up defending her and shooting his father, like, she's crying. Like, you've never seen her. We've never seen her cry. She's
Yeah.
crying, and she doesn't want him to be involved any more than he already is.
Yeah.
He says, "No, I'll clean it up. This is mine. Like, I own this. I did this." And she's crying.
Which was crazy too, because I was thinking that Navarro and her were going to take the body on their way to the caves and get rid of it. But no, he's even got to move the body. Um,
Yeah,
man,
clean up, move the body, bring him to Rose. She'll tell her you need to see my sister.
man. I it's Finn Bennett is the actor that plays Peter, and
Okay.
yeah,
I've never seen him in anything before this, but I really like him.
he's so he's credited as he's in something called Hope Gap. He's in something called The Nevers, which I recognize the thumbnail, but I don't know anything about. And then like a few other things, but really that's it. So I have a feeling he will probably have more roles after this. Yeah, so that was huge. I mean, that was just that whole revelation of where Hank is involved, and just again, like, so we also get that part of the McKittrick and Hank revelation rolled into that is the idea that Peter actually finds that basically the mine, Silver Sky Mining, through a shell company or like a whatever Tuttle, who makes video
Right.
games and
Tuttle
all this
Inc.
other shit, basically funds Salau.
So, and some kind of offshoot that deals with the numbers for their pollution.
So in other words, they are polluting, but because they're funded by the mine, they're not reporting the actual numbers. Right. I mean, complete conflict of interest. And man, I felt so fucking. I maybe never felt so much for Danvers as when he walked into that fucking meeting with Connolly and McKittrick, and she's like, "Yeah, well, the riot is on the troopers. That's not my jurisdiction. But as long as we're here." And then they just fucking cut her off at the knees and fucking like, man, she was loaded for bear and they just disarmed her instantly, and it sucked because and then clearly, like, the next scene is McKittrick talking to Hank, right? And she's like, no, she has these numbers. Like, this is now a problem. So she's 100% correct.
Right. Yeah, she flat out says Danvers is never going to let this go.
Like you just said, she doesn't let anything go. She's not letting this go.
She's not letting this go. And right, that's why I don't think he would have hesitated to shoot her. He just never thought that. I don't think he thought Peter had the guts.
Yeah. Oh, well, and then the whole other thing is he was promised chief of police by McKittrick until Danvers was sent there by Connolly, right? So
by Connolly. So that's
it's in his best interest. If I get rid of her, I'm chief of police.
Right. Right. And he just make it look like, just like Danvers was doing something bad with Otis or whatever, and set her up as the patsy, even though, I mean, she wouldn't be there to defend herself. She'd be dead.
Well, he would basically be doing what they're going to be doing.
And it was a pretty intense episode. There were a lot of character building moments mixed in there, but I mean, can we talk about Navarro at the protest beating the hell out of the trooper that was manhandling Leah?
Felt good. As soon as she fucking hit that dude, I was like,
Mhm.
you just picked a fight you're gonna lose, brother. 'Cause she is gonna kick your dude. She is such a fucking badass. God
Yes, she
damn.
is. I love her.
Yeah, I really, really like her character a lot. She's
Me
the
too.
standout.
Danvers is pretty cool herself.
Yeah, I've really grown to appreciate her as have you.
She's a tough cookie.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was kind of heartbreaking to see that meeting where they just kind of knock all the steam out of her sails.
I was dreading this episode a little bit because of watching the coming attractions last week, so I didn't watch next week's coming attractions, and the reason was
There weren't any. I looked.
the coming attractions for this week focused on the riot, but then also the scene where she's telling Navarro, it's over. And that's such a
Mm,
trope in these kind of
yeah,
shows that I was just like, oh, do we have to go? But it ended up being fine. But it just
right.
stuck in my head all week. And I was like, oh
Okay.
God, it's that the dark night of the soul. Like we've come this far, but now it's over. They've shut it down or whatever. It's like we know you're gonna fucking do it anyway. Come on. You can't really skip the step, but at the same time, it's just and also you're right. Lots of great character building, great episode. However, man, we got one episode left, and they're going to give us something satisfying. That seems
Yeah, I know. I'm worried about that.
seems really fucking far fetched to me. I mean, I'm probably going to be in regardless. This will probably be a win for True Detective in my book, regardless.
Hmm.
Because both 1 and 3 are wins, even though I feel like the end lets me down. I just really
Hmm.
wish for once. I was hoping this would not only be fucking awesome all the way through and land it, but like retroactively fix what I don't like about 1.
Well, we don't know what the last episode is going to bring, and maybe
They're
we'll
going to the
get lucky and
caves.
we know that.
I
Maybe
mean,
we'll get lucky and it'll be a longer one too.
so I am kind of hoping for that. I'm hoping let's see, hold on. I'm gonna look right now. Just insofar as okay, so I love that on IMDb, like you get nothing for the coming episode, right? I don't want
Okay.
anything. Like the only oh, that's interesting. So we've got Jodie Foster, Kelly Reis, and Catherine Wilder as Blair Franchette. I don't know who that is. That's it. There's no other cast. Like a lot of these shows do that. We know Jodie Foster and
Hmm.
Kelly Reis are in it, so they'll have them up, but nothing else until well after the episode airs, right? So, but I was wondering if there would be the runtime.
Hmm.
Although I will say this: I knew this name. One of the writers who names I keep seeing, it's always Issa Lopez and Chris Mundy, and Chris
Yeah.
Mundy is known for Ozark, so that makes a
Okay.
lot of sense to me because
I haven't seen Ozark.
you would like it. There's a character in it I feel like you would really, really like.
I'll check it out at some point.
What else? What else about episode 5?
What about those rocks this with the swirls? Havoc and I don't know the other guy's name,
I don't
but
either.
but they come to Navarro and bring her this. I think it's a rock, unless it was a piece of wood.
No, it's a rock. It's definitely it's what was that guy's name? Peck uh
Pegak.
yeah, it's what
Pegak.
Pagak left for them, right? And so they'd been pondering it, and she had left
But
it with what's his name?
Havoc.
Yeah, Kavik, thank you. And so he took it upon himself to research it, apparently.
Right. And they came to her, and this hunter had told Navarro that he had been raised to know that whenever you see those, it means it's a bad place. The ice can swallow you up there. That almost sounds like portals or pockets.
That's true. I hadn't thought of that because I was thinking when he was like, oh, my grandfather taught us to stay away from these hunters, leave them
Hmm.
for, to tell people to stay away from these places. I was like, oh, what's this? And he's like, because the ice is thin. I was like, that's so fucking mundane. And especially in this like land of night where there's all this folklore, right? So I was expecting something a little bit more like, oh, because there's evil spirits or whatever. So, but I hadn't thought of what you just said. The ice swallow you up like
The ice will
doors,
swallow you up.
portals.
They sound like doors or portals.
I'm definitely getting a sense that so okay, let me see if I can explain what I'm thinking. The way that the last episode of season one is structured and everything about it, it starts where it doesn't start with Marty and Cole. It starts with, the fucking Yellow King, the whatever, the lawnmower guy, right? And his like sister that he's banging or whatever.
Yeah, this creepy, incestuous
Yeah.
stuff
And
with them.
you spend like a pretty good amount of time with them. And it's such a weird because you're coming out of that last episode and you're like, holy shit, we're running at the end of this. And then so that kind of like it both kills your momentum a little bit in as far as your expectations, but also opens this other door that you weren't expecting to see, right?
Hmm.
So it's not like it's not relevant, it's just nowhere's near the way that you expect it to go. So I'm kind of expecting something similar, maybe not structured exactly the same, but I'm wondering, are we going to, so they're going to the caves. I'm wondering
Right.
if it's like we're going to start there and see something at the caves, whether it's in the past with Annie or because the vibe I get is that McKintrick and like, who knows, town bigwigs or whatever are involved in something that must have some
Right.
kind of an occult underbelly, right? I mean, do
Yeah, she
you know,
doesn't want her to see these caves.
yeah, and so she like when she says we can't let her see where Annie was killed, that to me says like, so you were there or know about when Annie was killed.
Oh, and Hank says he moved the body.
And Hank said, and that was the other big thing, right? Like Hank, that was the other reason I thought it was a suicide thing when he raised the gun. Because why would you say that?
I don't know.
Like that was just such a weird like confessional moment. Like, well, I'm about to leave the earth, so I might as well just, give you this.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know, but
I mean, or is it possible that McKintrick knows it? Because actually, so I'm actually losing a thread here. I'm thinking, okay, they're all in on this occult thing, but actually, McKintrick would have want Annie dead because she was anti-mine.
right.
So
Right, but this Annie's death was years ago, like 5 years ago. So, I mean, and it's in a cave under the ice. Any evidence of her murder would be cleaned up by now, but if it was like some kind of occult place she doesn't want her to find, that's different.
well, it wouldn't necessarily be cleaned up by now because of the weather, right? So
Oh, they do make a point of showing us like they can't bury anybody right now. There's that warehouse of all these coffins of people who have died.
you spill blood or DNA and it freezes and it doesn't unfreeze.
Yeah, it's never gonna thaw.
So they very clearly, whatever happened, McKittrick's people blew up the entrance to that mine. And because they even
Hmm.
have it fucking monitored by video surveillance, right? Like,
Right.
how fucking weird is that? There's nothing even out there. And it's like, oh, yeah,
I didn't
well,
even think of that.
and they're
And,
monitoring it. Like, they don't
right.
just have a camera on it, but they review it.
I didn't even think of that. That they actually have a camera and have somebody regularly viewing this, that they knew exactly what time
Yeah.
Danvers and Navarro were there and that they were at the entrance of this blown up mine.
And within like 24 hours, too. I mean, they were there, and then it was like, because the episode starts on New Year's Eve, and I think
Day 14 of the dark.
are we on New Year's Eve the whole episode? I think we might be. I'm trying to remember if there's like a day change, but I don't think there is.
I think you're correct. I think it is just the one day. trying to think if we see anybody like go to bed or anything. We see Navarro and Kavik go to bed, but then Danvers calls her and
Yeah.
says, "Nope, get up. We're going to where Annie died. Let's go."
I mean, and really, you'd have to imagine that in an area where 30 days of night would be, especially if you're a cop, right? And it like, if you have a job where you don't necessarily, it's not like I worked my 8 hours, I'm done, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would think it's just one long amorphous, like, I'll just go to bed whenever. I'll just like there. It, I can't even imagine what it would do. You know, the passage of time and the increments that we allot for it, and the way we structure our lives and our existence and our mental state around that. I don't even know. Like that would just dissolve.
I don't think 30 Days of Night would probably phase me much since I'm a weird nocturnal creature, anyways.
I don't know. I think it would affect you more than you think, but less than most people for sure.
Probably less than most people. I mean,
Yeah.
now 30 Days of Daylight, I couldn't do that.
Oh
I'd go
Jesus Christ.
insane.
Well, fucking right, Insomnia, Christopher Nolan's Insomnia. That's a great. I just rewatched it like 6 months ago. It's a great fucking movie because again, it's the same thing. How would you ever even what I was talking about with the night, 30 Days a Night, dissolving all the elements of our personas and our schedules and whatnot. I don't think that it would fuck with you, but I don't think it would be like terrible. But for daylight, I think that would be like the
Daylight, I couldn't
worst
do it.
thing of all time. It would be better to be walking around at 1 in the afternoon and it be nighttime than it would to be walking around at 3 a.m. and it be daytime.
Yes, that would be horrible.
Ugh.
I couldn't do it.
So you have anything else in your notes?
Navarro is like she can't really control it. It's calling her. She almost walks into the sea
Yeah.
right after her sister. She almost just walks right into the sea and didn't even realize it was happening. Rose said she was screaming for her. She didn't even hear her.
And I really like the way they did that too, because they gave us her perception. So we didn't hear Rose screaming until like
Nope.
right, so it seemed like just a very small, like, oh, she just took a couple steps, but that was not the case. So I did
Right.
like that they gave us that perspective. It reminded me of what they would do with Hayes in 3, where they would kind of put you in his mental state. So he's the young man that then like seamlessly transitions into the old man. And
Mm-hmm.
they kind of made you feel the disorientation of his dementia. So I felt like that was a
Right.
very similar tactic and it really worked.
Yeah, for sure. And it worked very well. I think the only other thing that really stood out for me is the scene with Peter and Danvers. She brings him into the office. She wants to know how Hank knows. The whole scene asks the question. No, ask again. That's the wrong question.
Yep.
Wrong question. Ask another one until he gets to the truth. And then this is a reminder when you should stop asking fucking questions. She's basically telling him to let it go. She can't let anything go.
Yeah.
I have a question for you. What is their deal?
I was really afraid when she was like, you can stay by me, or however she said it. He's like, I can't stay by you.
That'll land me right in a divorce.
But I was like, oh, please, Danvers, don't fuck this kid. Like literally, like don't screw him
Right.
over. Like don't fuck this kid. Because I was kind of like, oh man,
But
because I
did she,
flash. I
like,
no, I
have
don't.
they had a thing before?
No, I don't think so at all. I think he looks up to her.
Right. I've been trying to figure out all along. Does he look up to her? Is he, did they have a thing before, or do they have something?
No, I don't. I don't think so. I would be very,
Is it
very,
more
very
of like a
surprised.
mother, either a surrogate mother thing, or he looks up to her?
The surrogate mother
I
thing
don't
is
know where his
interesting.
mom is, but she's obviously not in the picture.
Yeah, I don't think they've mentioned her one.
No, I don't think they've ever mentioned her.
That scene made me think of something you had said. I don't remember if it was on this show or just when we were talking. I really wonder if Danvers didn't work with Cole at some point.
Yeah, I have wondered that too. Although Navarro is a lot more like him in character.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But then that would make sense the same way people tend to date people that are similar, or whatever, you're friends with people that are similar, whatever. It would make sense that maybe a partnership that like had left an imprint on her, because obviously Navarro left an imprint on her. And I
Mm-hmm.
I love the fact that we still don't know which one of them shot Wheeler. And
No,
I
we
don't think
don't.
they should tell us either. I'm good where I'm at. Like if they
Yeah,
tell us,
I
fine,
agree
but
because I'd much rather use my imagination, and I like when they leave things up to our interpretation, whether it be the relationships between the characters or, I mean, sometimes you don't need to know.
yeah.
Sometimes telling you too much ruins it.
Yeah.
See that with monsters all the time. Don't overlight the monster. And I mean, one of the coolest things about True Detective is that it walks that line so well, where you never quite know if it is going to go supernatural or if there's going to be a realistic explanation. Fucking weather event.
I know that was hysterical.
That doesn't even make sense.
What did she say to McKittrick? She's like, fuck you and your fucking weather event. Or something like
Yep.
that.
And
That
then
was
she tries
great.
to say the same thing to Navarro because that's, what they
Yeah,
told
right.
her. And she's like, fuck that. It's, a weather event. Are you kidding? Let's go.
Well, we will see. I'm assuming next week's will be on Sunday, because obviously this week dropped on Friday, as you mentioned, and I had figured out around the same time you did. I was like, oh, it's because the Super
Because of
Bowl,
the Super
obviously, right?
Bowl. Neither one of us does sports, so we don't pay attention to it.
Exactly. So it took me a while to figure that out. So fingers crossed. Like I said, I'll probably come out in the I'm for it column regardless, but I would really like them to land this 100%.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, I think overall, it's like, I know the first episode you had mentioned, oh, maybe True Detective is a cursed brand. I don't think it is. This is the fourth season, and I mean, 3 out of the four are good. I mean,
You haven't gone back to two yet, have you?
I've watched 3 episodes of two, and I don't know if I'm going to get much further.
Yeah,
I, I hate it. I
I
hate it.
mean, I would say pick at it just to see if you get anything from, but I don't know that I think you will.
I
I don't know.
don't.
It's been
It's been a few days. I mean, typically, if I'm into, I watch season 1 and season 3 in their entirety in a week between episodes. Tried to go into that one, and I've made it 3 episodes. And every time I go, oh, I should, it's getting late. I'll just put on a episode of True Detective and go to bed. I don't. I end up putting on, you know, Chopping Mall or something I've seen a zillion times. I don't care about any of the people.
I think that was the point, but I just don't understand why.
Well, and that just it doesn't work for me most of the time. If I can't connect with anybody, I don't care about and I don't care about your characters. I don't care what happens to them. I mean, there are exceptions where something is done just extremely well. Like, I mean, we just did Angst for elements of horror, and that character is completely unlikable, but it's done so well,
Yeah.
I'm engaged. I'm not engaged with any of these people. And it's not for, like you said, Vince Vaughn. He certainly is like, he's trying. I can't figure out the point of his character. I kind of can't figure out the point of any of them, but he's trying. And I feel like Colin Farrell, he's trying, but I don't care. I wanted to conquer it just to say that I had, and you know, hopefully exhume some kind of weird connection that you know we wouldn't have seen otherwise. but I don't know that I can make it through. And I usually don't just stop in the middle of shit. And I don't know. I'm 3 hours in and I hate all of these people.
I don't think they'll completely blow it. I just don't know that it'll be what I want, but we'll see. I'm suspending judgment. I'm voicing my concerns based on previous disappointments, but I believe in Issa Lopez for fucking sure. And actually Chris Monday, now I know that there's the Ozark connection, like Ozark lands that shit big time. Like what really fucking strong ending. So I don't know. We'll see.
I'm just afraid we won't have enough time.
Well, that's the question. As much as I wouldn't change anything about this episode, I'm still looking at my watch, going like I wouldn't change anything, but I might have made it longer. So we'll see. I'll bet next episode will be longer. I don't know that it'll be a lot longer, like an hour and a half, maybe.
Right. Yeah.
Would be good. I don't know that it will be an hour and a half, but you know, might be an hour and 10. Is that enough? I don't know. We'll see. It's all conjecture at this point. So, but okay. Well, until the final episode airs and we come back to give you our thoughts for Murderboard. Did I just say Moiterboard?
I think you did.
I think I did. Well, it's almost 2 a.m. So for Moiterboard, I'm Sean.
I'm Missy.
And we'll be back.
A pandemic of violence floods the streets of major cities as cases of the media-dubbed murder virus, MV20 soar, causing those infected to go on killing sprees. Caught in the middle, police detective Angela Miller finds her only trustworthy ally in the self-proclaimed psychic PI, Gerald Henry. As the two try to navigate the violence, they are drawn into New Age guru Abramelin Harvest's plot to heal the planet. Harvest's missive?
The world is sick, and humanity is the infection.
The cure? Murder. From the twisted mind of Sean C. Baker, author of A Collection of Desires, and Shadowplay in Book 1, Kim and Jesse, comes his most vicious novel yet,